Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 15th, 2023 meeting of the Wilmington School Committee. Forgive the slightly late start. We are just out of an executive session. All members are present, with the exception of Chairman Ragsdale. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Academic Excellence Award announcement. Dr. Brandt?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. At this time each year, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to, at school districts across the Commonwealth, take an opportunity and extend congratulations to one of our students. I'm pleased this year to, in just a moment, be able to present the Academic Excellence Award from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. This award is intended to be given to a senior high school student who has distinguished themselves in the pursuit of excellence during their high school career. The selection of this award is made in the fall, allowing the awardee to include this honor in his or her credential package. At this point, it's with great pleasure that I ask if Nita Stoeva could come forward. Nita is an exceptional student who has made countless contributions to our community at Wilmington High School. She's helped plan our first ever Spanish exchange program, collaborating with staff and students, and we know how huge of a success that was. She has extensive involvement in extracurricular activities, including many with a focus on cultural awareness, inclusion, and social justice. Nita holds many leadership roles, including president of our student council, as well as the Peace Club, secretary of the Science Club, and SAD Group, amongst many, many others. Nita's academic performance has been exemplary, and her ability to gracefully manage all of her commitments here in our high school, both in as well as out, is truly remarkable. With that, congratulations to this year's 2023-24 Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Academic Excellence Award.
Dr. Brand? Okay, we are fortunate to have both the Wilmington High School and Wilmington Middle School doing student representative presentations this evening. We'll start with the Wilmington High School. Maddie and, forgive me, Shibangi? Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having us once again. Today, I have Shibangi here to present with me.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Shibangi. I'm in 11th grade.
All right.
So first of all, on the 30th, there was a guest speaker available for students. John McNamara, an Eisenberg graduate and the 2017 Accounting Alumnus of the Year, shared his knowledge of the field and information about the Eisenberg School with students.
On the 9th, the mother-in-law of Mrs. Nowak, one of the Spanish teachers here at the high school, came in and gave a presentation during W2 about her childhood growing up following World War II and what it was like during the war as well. College visits have also continued, with seniors having plenty of opportunities to go and meet with these schools. Most of the visits have allowed them to speak with the admissions counselors who will actually be reading their applications.
Students have been registering for winter sports, which includes winter track, swimming, hockey, and basketball. There was also an information meeting for parents. The fall play put on by the high school's Lamplighters was a huge success. They put on the play that went wrong, and this spring their musical will be Newsies.
High school students in the WHS Service Council returned to elementary schools to read to the students and lead some activities with them. In news for the fall sports, both field hockey and soccer made it to the state tournament and competed. Cross country also went to states this past weekend, where Hannah Bryson and Addie Hunt both medaled, and this weekend they will be attending all states to compete again.
Mr. Maloney's AP Government and AP US History classes took a field trip to Kennedy Institute to learn more about the Senate, voting, and gerrymandering. They were even able to debate in a replica of the Senate while acting as senators. The WHS PAC held an open meeting on November 7th where they invited everyone to join them to discuss the new PAC initiatives for the school year.
On the 14th, parent-teacher conferences were held. There was 1 hour of in-person meetings available and 1 hour of virtual meetings. This helped make sure that more parents were able to attend. On November 30th, there will be a college information night for the parents of juniors so that they can begin to learn more about the process many of them will be going through next year. Recently, service learning projects have begun to take off. This weekend, Sarah Koulis hosted her walkathon in order to raise money for scleroderma. Through her fundraising efforts, she has raised over $1,000. This is just one of many projects that will continue to take place until the end of the semester, each going towards great causes the students are passionate about.
The school received the results of the Panorama survey where they found that we improved in every category. The Black and Latinx group has planned a family movie night on the 17th, where in the honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, they will be watching Encanto. There will be snacks and activities for the families of Wilmington to enjoy. There will be a pep rally on Tuesday, the 21st, in order to get ready for the football team to take on Tewksbury in our annual game on Thursday.
The first quarter of the year officially ended, and last night report cards went out with grades. Thank you so much for having us again. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
Questions?
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to the Wilmington Middle School, we have Jill Weinstein and Elizabeth Gray. Good evening.
Hello, and thank you for having us.
The Wilmington Middle School Drama Club continues to work hard on this year's winter production of The Little Mermaid. The performers have been cast, and rehearsals are underway. Can't wait to watch this performance.
Yearbooks for the 2023 and 2024 school year are now on sale. Parents and guardians have already received an email with all the important information, including the links to purchase. Yearbooks are being offered at a reduced price of $38 until the end of 2023 and will go up at $48 after that. Sales will conclude in February.
Bonjour. The Wilmington Middle School World Culture Club has been experiencing the wonders of French culture. Students have been studying with French Language Week and enjoyed a French cheese tasting. Next on the agenda is Native American Month.
Student Council kicked off our fall advisory events with the Thankful Feathers. Students really gave it their all with decorating the feathers with fall themes and showing what they are thankful for. The final result was the United Turkey display in our main lobby. Spirit Weeks were also a part of these events. Students participated in Blue and White Day, College Day, Costume Day, and Staff and Student Swap Day. This is always a favorite at WMS, as staff dressed up in sweatpants and sweatshirts, and there were several Mr. Kairos seen throughout the building.
We wrapped up a busy start with a fantastic 6th grade dance. We had a great turnout and many students came dressed in their Halloween best. Students had pizza, played games, and danced to the music stylings of DJ Jill and her posse. Special thanks goes out to the Wilmington Middle School PAC for their help and support, and to the WMS Student Council for all their hard work and dedication. What a way to start the year. Student Council is also looking forward to our winter decorating event. In conjunction with advisory, the students at Wilmington Middle School will be creating snowmen similar to door decorating to celebrate and spread that winter spirit.
The Robotics Club is off to a booming start. We continue to have a record number of students participants and are looking forward to a great year. This year, Mr. Kaiser is thrilled to announce the new addition for this club, a 3D printer with photoreactive filament. Students are eager to try this out.
Homework Club is back. Students have been coming to this club to study, complete homework, and work collaboratively with other students. This is a great space to be able to focus and engage with classmates in your studies.
After-school sports continue to be a favorite among middle schoolers. Students have already been playing some of their favorite games in this club: soccer, basketball, pillow polo, wiffle ball, and everyone's favorite, pickleball. Stay tuned for more fun events in the future.
The middle school is off to an exciting start. It is hard to believe that we are already at the end of quarter one. Parent conferences will be held on the 16th and will be available both in person and virtually. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great
Appreciate
night.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to the consent agenda. First item, approval of minutes, October 25th, 2023. Motion, Dr. Bryson, second, Mr. Samaha,
Discussion?
please.
There are two amendments that I would like to add before we approve this.
Okay.
In the fiscal financial report, if we could just have a clarifying question to my initial question to Mr. Ruggiero regarding the term guidance counselors, since the new vernacular is student counselors, just so it would offer more clarity. And then under the BPIP, the additional references to law that I mentioned that and had recommended to be added to the BIP was IDEA and ADA. The MGL is already included throughout, so those were just the two corrections I had.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, second reading of policy EBC, medical behavioral health emergency. Dr. Bryson, second. Mr. Turner, discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. All right, we have approval of Wilmington High School band to Pat's Peak Ski Area, February 2024. Mr. Farrar, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here. I have 8 kind of info sheets. I hope that's enough. Thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
It's pretty much the same one you got last year with the slight price increase, but virtually it's going to be a repeat trip, same as last year, apart from the price and the date. Last year was a lot of fun, but there was just barely enough snow for us in the middle of March. Kids were skiing in t-shirts, which is great, but we're going to play it safe this year and go hopefully the first weekend of February. So it would be going up on the Friday evening after school, staying overnight at the the Concord Bow Hampton Inn, and then skiing at Pat's Peak, which is about a 20-minute ride from the hotel on Saturday, and coming back Saturday night to get home around dinner time. So the cost of the trip went up for 2 primary reasons, mostly buses and the actual cost per ticket and lessons and rentals at the mountain. But overall, the cost of the trip should be no more than $20 more than last year. So depending on what the student needs, whether it's just the lift ticket and they have their own gear and know how to ski, or if they need everything, it would range from $170, the low end, to $257, should they need to rent and take a lesson.
Questions? Mrs. Burns?
I just want to say that I always appreciate team-building exercises. I think this is a wonderful, just a wonderful way to get the kids together and build teamwork, collaboration, and it's also safety eyes on each other kind of things. And I really appreciate you creating this and doing this for the band.
Of course, thank you.
I went last year. It was a ton of fun. To go again this year. So please approve it.
I did not ask Maddie to say that, I promise. But thank you.
There are no other questions. That's a pretty good segue. Mrs.
To make a
Burns?
motion to approve the band ski trip.
Seconded by Dr. Bryson. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you
Great
very
time.
much.
Thank you.
That's right. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming.
All right, we have approval of warrants G12, R 2021, L 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, FS 19, 20, 21, 22, and CP 05. Mrs. Burns, second. Dr. McCaldy. All those in favor? Unanimous. We have payroll 11/8/2023. Is there a motion? Mr. Samaha, second. Mr. Turner. All those in favor? Unanimous. And we have warrants, special education 16, 17, 18, and 19. Is there a motion? Mr. Samaha, seconded by Dr. Bryson. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, that takes us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Brand.
Thank you, and good evening again. Just one item tonight under this section of the agenda, an update on the Wildwood and MSBA project. A lot of activity that has unfolded since we last met. I just wanted to take this opportunity to ensure that our community is up to speed and up to date regarding the developments. There's one item in the packet that accompanies this, and that is a two-page brochure. And thanks to Mr. Ingersoll for her work on putting together some highlights of what we've termed the educational visioning sessions that just completed. These were 4 fairly intensive sessions, and a tremendous thank you, if I could take this opportunity to extend to our many, many staff, our administrators, and members of our community. They are listed on this brochure, as you can see, an extensive list of folks who gave of upwards of 12+ hours of their time over these 4 sessions. This is think of this as a pretty refined protocol that our project designer, Doran Whittier, or other designers would take a community through to try and really envision what we want as a community for this next school, this new school. I had the pleasure, as did colleague Miss Elliott, to attend all of these sessions, and they were well designed, well orchestrated, and the feedback has been pretty strong and positive in terms of the takeaways. The takeaways from the visioning really is a rich set of information, qualitative information, I guess, if you will, more than certainly quantitative, that allows our designer to start to assemble the possibilities for what this school might become. I'll take this opportunity to stress that there's been no decision yet about the grade configuration. That's still down the road, but this is think of this as a 40,000-foot view of what in a new school facility seems to be most important and considered really essential to try and explore its possible inclusion in this building. We also have 2 other items that took place, and we will make sure that this information gets shared with our broader community. It's certainly out there in different forms, but I'll be highlighting this in the next district newsletter. On November the 8th, that evening was a big night for this project for 2 reasons. There were 2 separate meetings. They were back-to-back held. The first was our first public informational forum for the community. I'm pleased to be able to say that both of these were recorded, so if you were not able to attend, they were held virtually via Zoom. We have recordings of these thanks to WCTV, and these are already posted on their website, and we'll make sure that we draw as much attention to these as we can. The community forum was to provide an update for anyone who was joining on a couple of things. The MSBA process as a whole, it's a very structured process with the state and the entity of the MSBA. Our designer and our owner project manager really can't. They have to follow their rules, and there are many for this program. But it was a broad overview of what this kind of partnership program will look like for us going forward. And then there were some highlights around the visioning piece that I just mentioned, as well as ways to stay connected. We took some time to focus on that. That was followed, actually before I go there was also a video that was played following that at our meeting. And one of the things that our designer, our design firm, Doran Whittier, strongly encouraged us to do is to bring together people and try and get out to other schools and other communities that have recently completed new school construction projects. There was a visit organized a number of weeks back we invited many, many people to attend. We had well over 25, I think it was, in total that attended and visited 5 different modern, I'll call it, or currently recently completed new schools in the general or greater Boston area. There was a 5 or 6 minute video that was created that provided visual takeaways from that visit, and it was pretty powerful for those that went. Powerful in the sense that they could see what a modern elementary school facility looks like. Obviously, quite different from what we are currently operating in our district. And our designers believe that this is really important as well to help our community in this sense try and visualize from those experiences. Think about it as you're thinking about building a new house, and you go and visit new modern construction. It's sort of the same thing, but on a larger scale. And so there's a great video that's out there. Again, we'll try and draw attention to that for anyone who might be interested. If you've never had a chance to be in a new elementary school, boy, they can be something. So two back-to-back meetings, lots of information, not intended to overwhelm anyone who's interested in following this, but this is an important story that will have a long journey here, and we will continue to do our best to try and allow anyone who wants to follow this story to do so. Our webpage is stocked with information and will continue to be. We've tried to make it more accessible for anyone interested in accessing this information. With that, obviously the excitement is building. So I'm happy to take any questions if there are on any of those items regarding the MSBA project.
Thank you, Dr. Brand. Questions? Dr. McCauley?
Thanks. Yeah, kind of more of a comment. Just kind of want to agree with you I attended the meetings last week, seeing the difference between the buildings we have now and the photos that were taken by Doran Whittier, and then compared it to the video of what these buildings can be, was just absolutely striking. So I also encourage anyone who hasn't seen that to go look at that, because that can show you really what the promise of us building a new school in this community can look like. And just for the benefit of the community, anyone can attend the Wildwood MSBA meetings, right?
Thank you for asking. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. They are open to anybody in the community. We don't always hold them virtually. Certainly they're in person as well. But we are following open meeting law, if you will, with regards to those. And what that means is we are deliberate in posting the agendas ahead of time. There's minutes that are taken as part of these. But that said, there's also the opportunity for anyone to join and also to share their comments or feedback. And so I appreciate you bringing attention to that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Brandt. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. There was no public comment received in advance. No one signed up to attend in advance. That said, is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? Okay. Moving along to new business, first item on the agenda is the YRBS report presentation. Do you want to say a few words while they
Sure.
join us?
And Ms. Murray, if you want to come forward. This, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey is an annual item that members of the committee know. We, like many of the other districts, in particular here in the Middlesex League, participate and collaborate on this effort to try and gather information from our students around a variety of topics and subjects. After that information is gathered, it's compiled together into a report, and there's always an effort to try and do our best to bring the highlights of that to you, and so that's what this is about this evening. And with that, Ms. Murray.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. We have consulted with JSI to do our YRBS results. We perform those in the spring of 2023. And we also have two reports, one Wilmington report and one Middlesex League report. So it really gives us a nice snapshot to prepare the results for not only the Wilmington community, but also to compare the results for the Middlesex League and also some of the state data.
We are sorry, there is no...
So tonight we have a presentation prepared for you from JSI. So we will have Becca Millock will be presenting through the video here, but also on the phone to answer any questions that the committee might have. And we also have a special presentation. I have two senior students here that have approached me about a very important topic, so we thought we would include them in that as well.
Thank you.
This is Aaron's number. Becca was the one. Becca didn't answer.
Okay.
Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, Aaron. This is the Wilmington Public Schools School Committee meeting.
Yes, hi.
Hey, can you please hold? I'm going to try to get Becca on too.
Sure.
Thank you.
We are sorry, there is no one available to take your call.
Send him a hyperlink.
right, so no backup.
No, back, I was just texting with her, so she should be around.
Do you want to give us that number?
Perhaps we have the wrong number.
Yeah, hold on. Well, I was writing with her on the computer, but I can find her number too. I'm gonna put you guys on speaker.
Anybody else have a number?
I have the same number that you have.
Okay, I'm just writing her, so let her know that you're trying to call.
Okay.
Okay, she said it's 617-385-3821.
Yep, that's what we have, and
It's
it's
a reject.
not going through.
Huh. She said it didn't ring. I guess maybe try again now that she's,
We'll try right now.
It never rang, but your number came through, like, so,
I'll try again right now.
okay, I'll let her know you're trying.
Okay.
We are sorry, there is no one available to take your call.
Nope, no service.
Christine,
All right, is there a number that she can call in or only work through you guys calling?
Chief do a
Not sure,
two-way call.
because it's not going to
Oh,
dial directly in.
she gave another number. She said you could try calling. Oh, she said the work phone is preventing the call. Okay, she said to try, her cell phone, which is, 518.
This is on tape, just so you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
public right now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure we want to be doing that. Sorry.
She is.
Hold on a second.
Hold on.
Does anybody have the ability to receive a text from her? With the number? That number?
Well, so I think maybe if we could postpone this for a couple of minutes and try to work out some of these technical things and move on to something else, if that's okay. I mean, I hate to make you guys wait longer, but maybe we can get a better number for her and come back to this. Is that okay with the committee? Okay. All right, so we'll sort of switch gears. If
And
it's
I'm gonna call you
okay,
back from a different number, okay?
Chair.
Okay, could you get, Becca's other number?
Or if we
to
just
call?
pause for
No,
a
I'll
minute
get
so
that
that
in a
we
second.
can turn this off.
I'll call you right back. Thank you.
Phone number. We just can't do the
Okay.
phone number because,
because it's on TV,
Mhm.
yeah.
and then for me to give my cell, I have to then, so I feel like there's just no way to do that unless we take a brief reset, like a quick, that's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So I'll make a motion to take a 2.5-minute recess.
Mrs. Burns?
Second for discussion.
Sure.
Is it not possible just to do the, I'm just asking, go through the policies that are before us in the interim? Because we could stop,
I think it's gonna be a challenge to conduct the meeting while we are trying to get the phone.
that's fine, whatever the board feels.
All right. So there's a motion and a second for a 2-minute recess. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we'll be right back.
Just make sure they turn that off, and then we can deal with the numbers.
That was a good point. Okay, we are back. Apologies for the technical glitch. Ms. Murray,
Sure.
back to you.
Thank you. So we have Becca Millock and Erin Singer with us tonight. We have a pre-recorded video that will be available for the public to review and come back to the YRBS results. This is a quick snapshot that they prepared, so we will watch the video. We have a few presentation here with the students that I will introduce after, and then we can ask some questions with them on the phone.
Thank you for watching this video presentation of the 2023 Wilmington Public Schools Youth Health Survey. The purpose of this presentation is to highlight select middle and high school results. I would like to see the results from each.
I think we're losing connection because I just did too.
Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video presentation of the 2023 Wilmington Public Schools Youth Health Survey. The purpose of this presentation is to highlight select middle and high school results. I would like to see the results from each survey question asked. Please review the full report and data tables provided to the school district. So let's begin with a brief summary of the survey. Since 2017, school districts in Middlesex County, collectively called the Middlesex League, have jointly conducted a biannual youth health survey to capture behaviors and experiences that may impact students' health. Once this year's survey was administered, data were analyzed and reported for all students, as well as by self-reported grade, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, and ethnicity. In addition to looking at general percentages, we also tested for statistical significance within demographic groups. There may be instances where there are large differences in percentages and not a statistically significant difference. This is often because of small sample sizes, where statistical significance is more difficult to detect. Moving forward, when we mention significant differences within groups, know that we are referring to statistical significance. So this year's survey was administered to all middle and high school students in the spring. 77% of middle school students and 40% of high school student surveys were included in the analysis after cleaning the data per CDC standards. This left us with a sample of 488 middle school students and 291 high school students. Participation rates among high school students was lower than prior years due to the simultaneous administration of the CDC's YRBS. These tables show the demographic breakdown of the middle and high school samples. Note that the small sample size among the high school youth did not allow us to report race categories separately without the possibility of compromising student anonymity. Before we look at the results, we want to give you a preview of how the data will be displayed in this presentation. In the example below, you can see that we will show trend data since 2017, or the earliest data that we have for a particular question. We will also show the 2023 data for each demographic group. An arrow pointing up, seen in this example for female students, represents a characteristic as being significantly more likely, or that female students were significantly more likely to engage in this behavior or have this experience. And an arrow pointing down means that they were significantly less likely. We will also include 2023 Middlesex League data and 2021 Massachusetts YHS data when available. Note that the state has not yet published their 2023 data. So let's jump into the results. The first question relates to safety. Overall, 7% of middle school students and 6% of high school students reported skipping school on at least one of the past 30 days because they felt unsafe at school or on the way to or from school. You can see several substantial differences in the rates of skipping school by gender identity and race. However, the only statistically significant finding was that LGBTQ+ middle school students were significantly more likely than heterosexual students to not go to school because they felt unsafe. Next, we will look at violence-related behaviors and experiences, specifically being in a fight, physical fight. Note that the questions differ between middle school and high school. For middle school students, the question is related to ever being in a physical fight, while for high school students, the question is related to whether they were in a physical fight on school property in the past year. Overall, middle school female and Asian students were significantly less likely to have ever been in a physical fight than the average middle school student, and male students were significantly more likely. While there are differences within high school demographic groups, none were significant. The next two slides show the in-school and electronic bullying results. First, we will look at youth's experience of bullying on school property in the past 12 months. The high school trend data shows a slight increase from 2021, from 5% to 8%, after dropping from 18% in 2019. There are certainly differences here within demographic groups, especially by sexual orientation, gender identity, and race, but none of these differences are significant. Moving on to electronic bullying, the high school trend data does show a continued decrease from 2019 at 14% to 5% now. Again, while there are some clear differences within demographic groups, none of these differences are significant. So this slide shows results of those who answered affirmatively for 4 questions around their mental health in the past year, including, did you ever feel so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 or more weeks in a row that you stopped doing some usual activities? How many times did you hurt or injure yourself on purpose? Did you ever seriously consider attempting suicide? So transgender and gender diverse students were significantly more likely than the average student to experience depression, engage in self-harm, and just in the middle school, seriously consider attempting suicide. Similarly, LGBTQ+ students were significantly more likely than heterosexual students to experience depression, engage in self-harm, and seriously consider attempting suicide. So next we looked at connectedness or protective factors. These are relationships students have that may reduce their risk of negative impacts to their health. So we asked students if they had the following individuals to talk to about a problem: a teacher or other adult in their school, an adult outside of school who is not in their family, an adult in their family, or a friend of similar age, a peer. Overall, most students have at least one family adult and friend to talk to about a problem, while fewer have a non-family adult outside of school, and even fewer have a teacher or other adult in the school. There were no statistically significant differences within high school demographic groups. However, within middle school demographic groups, Black students were significantly more likely than the average student to have at least one teacher or adult in school to talk to about a problem. Female students were significantly more likely than the average student to have a friend of similar age to talk to about a problem. And LGBTQ+ students were significantly less likely than heterosexual students to have at least one teacher or other adult in school, a non-family adult outside of school, and a family adult to talk to about a problem. So the next 2 slides look at lifetime and current substance use. First, we'll look at lifetime substance use, or how many students have ever tried a substance. Overall, middle and high school lifetime substance use has decreased from 2019. This is particularly notable for electronic vapor product, or EVP, use and marijuana use within high school youth, where use has decreased from 43% to 10% and 36% to 14% respectively. There were no statistically significant differences within middle school demographic groups. For the high school results, we saw that students in 9th grade were significantly less likely than the average student to ever drink alcohol, use EVPs, or use marijuana. Conversely, students in 12th grade were significantly more likely than the average student to use alcohol. Additionally, LGBTQ+ high school students were significantly more likely than heterosexual students to ever use marijuana. So now we'll look at current substance use, or how many students have ever used a substance in the past 30 days. Similar to lifetime substance use, current substance use also decreased since 2019, especially for current marijuana use, which decreased from 25% to 9%, and current EVP use, which decreased from 27% to 6%. Again, there were no statistically significant differences within middle school demographic groups. Similar to lifetime use, use of marijuana and alcohol significantly increased with grade and LGBTQ+ students. High school students were significantly more likely than their heterosexual peers to currently use marijuana. So next we'll look at the results for nutrition, specifically the percentage of students who have eaten breakfast on at least 6 of the past 7 days. Overall, percentages have remained relatively consistent since 2019, Still, only about half of middle school and high school students eat breakfast regularly, and fewer within some demographic groups. So this is the last result slide of this presentation. Here we look at the hours of sleep on an average school night. The percentages show the number of students who slept 8 or more hours on an average school night. Overall, students who got the 8 hours or the recommended number of hours has increased since 2019. Still, only about half of middle school students and about a quarter of high school students got the recommended hours of sleep. Within middle school demographic groups, students in 8th grade, transgender or gender diverse students are significantly less likely than the average middle school student to get the recommended hours of sleep. Additionally, LGBTQ plus students were significantly less likely than heterosexual students to get the recommended hours of sleep. There were no statistically significant differences within high school demographic groups. So we understand that we've covered a lot of information and highly recommend that you take the time to review these slides and also read the full report. The next slide provides a high-level summary of the findings by topic area that we presented in this video. So I won't read every line, but a few things that stick out. Overall, substance use has continued to decrease since 2019. Additionally, most students report a high level of social support among peer and family members. However, fewer report support from teachers or school staff. Further, we found that transgender and gender diverse students, as well as LGBTQ plus students, are suffering when it comes to their mental health and school safety. So thank you for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, please contact me, Rebecca Millock from JSI at Becca_Millock@jsi.com, or Christine Murray from Wilmington Public Schools at Christine.Murray@WPSK12.com. Thank you.
Do we want to do questions before we move on to the next one? Or?
We're just going to go through
Okay.
a little bit of this presentation, and then
Very good.
students present. If you guys are okay with that. Great. So thank you, Becca and Erin are on the phone for their presentation and putting all the data together for Wilmington. I would also like to introduce Benjamin Marvin and Albie Obakal, two senior students from Wilmington High who are joining me tonight just to talk a little bit about their service project that they approached me about that I thought would be nice to share with the community.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So we heard a brief snapshot of some of the data, and it's a lot of information. The full reports, as Becca said, are on our website. They do have additional topics that weren't discussed in this presentation. So with these results, we start to look at how we prioritize our areas of concern, what areas we need to monitor, and really highlight some of the good progress that we've seen with our students. We also want to include our families and community in this work. We did survey the students in our schools, but a lot of this work does come from working together and collaborating, which we'll talk a little bit about in this presentation. We use this data a lot for grant funding to help us bring activities and programs into the district. There's much opportunity for our strategic plan that is coming up to really look at this data in small groups and in our work that we have for our future planning. And we're going to talk a little bit about the activities and program that we're currently doing and areas that we can always expand on based on the data. So we broke it down here. It's a brief snapshot of some of the activities and programs offered throughout the district based on some of the health-related behaviors and experiences domains monitored on the YRBS. So when we heard the subject areas there, substance use, we really cover that in our health curriculum. We do screening of the brief intervention and referral to treatment screenings at the middle school and high school level. A few years back, we had a really big vaping initiative at the high school where we worked with students and community members. We brought vaping detectors into the building at the high school. We really looked at our diversionary program and what we could offer to students for more education rather than a discipline approach. We have our Students Against Destructive Decisions Committee, a club that meets to really talk about some of these issues. And then when we talk about protective factors, our athletic program, I know the enrollment is low in our district, but there is a large amount of students that participate in athletics. And through that, and actually one of our students here, captain of the football team, they do a lot around substance use and really educating the students and athletes about protective factors around that. So our clubs and organizations, community service projects, such as tonight that we're going to be discussing, enrichment programs in the schools, mentoring programs, having older students come down to our younger students, and really looking at our panorama and culture and climate surveys around sense of belonging. Those are all kind of protective factors that we have in place. When we look at physical activity and nutrition, working together with the health and PE liaison, looking at our curriculum there. Our school wellness policy really covers a lot of this. We're lucky we have the universal free school lunch, the meals, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. We brought the initial results to the wellness committee to really break it down and talk at the wellness committee about what this would look like and have some future goals for that. As far as safety, we have a great collaboration with our school resource officers. We have a district safety committee, and again, the student clubs that also talk about safety in our schools. When we talk about violence, we really just went through it here a few weeks ago with our bullying prevention and intervention plan. In that plan has a lot of the curriculum, and we consult with the MARC Aggression Center out of Bridgewater State. And again, our health curriculum touches on those topics. For mental health, we really are seeing a lot of this in our school with advisory programs. We're looking at our panorama data, our PBIS initiatives. We have counseling services and staff that support all of our students. Care Solace is a nice mental health care coordination system that we're using to support families finding additional supports for mental health. Again, we look at our universal screenings for SOS and SBIRT. Those are all depression and anxiety screenings, so we really can provide interventions to students that we are flagging on those screenings. Our task force, behavioral health task force, really takes a lot of these initiatives, works on our strategic plan, and really looks at this data to drive some of our work. I think we've had some increased parent-guardian workshops really related on topics around mental health over the past few years. As far as sexual behaviors, there were a lot of questions regarding that topic, and our health curriculum covers mostly all of that through their growth and development program. The nice thing about the health curriculum, it has a lot of standards coming up to really provide inclusivity and conversations around that. Again, internet safety was some of the questions about sexting, and again, that is covered in our curriculum through MARC. Something we're really proud about under the discrimination section here, our family engagement specialist created a gender support planning guideline for our district. So it really drives resources for staff on how to support students through gender planning, working with families, providing resources to families outside of the district as well. Again, our BPIP covers discrimination and harassment. We have the Gender and Sexualities Alliances at both the middle school and high school, so it provides opportunities for students to collaborate together and come up with some activities that are really productive at the middle school and high school level. And again, MARC and PBIS kind of really talk about at the younger grade levels how to be inclusive and work together at a younger age to kind of accept differences and help prevent discrimination. So that's just a snapshot. I know I read every one of them, but I really feel like they're important, things that we do have in place for our students and families. So when we look to the right here, we have the CDC whole school community model. It really emphasizes the role that the community and family plays with some of this data that we're talking about tonight. It helps to improve childhood health. Specifically, the model incorporates the community supporting the school and the connections between health and academic achievement. So it really is a correlation there. And the importance of the evidence-based school policies and practices that we talked about. So we're fortunate to have strong partnerships and collaboration, and I think it's important to note this. I'm not going to read all of them in the sense of time with, we have people on the phone here as well that I would like to get back to, but this is just showing in all areas from kind of the medical side to the mental health side. I do want to make note of the second to last bullet, the Mass Call 3 Collaborative Grant. Wilmington Community just received $10,000. Tewksbury is the lead, but between Billerica, Chelmsford, Dracut, Tingsboro, Westford, and Wilmington, we're working together to partner on substance use. You can see some of our data going down in that area, and I think a lot of work tonight that we're talking about really helps to support that. But that money is going towards, we have sent some teachers to get trained in Breathe for Change, which is working on social emotional learning and yoga and mindfulness training to really prevent to have students learning positive coping skills at a young age to prevent substance abuse as they get older. So that's just a real good list of, we're very lucky in our own community here, and then the partnerships that we have through the state as well. So now getting to two students that have been so patient and through this evening with some of our glitches, but I'm definitely turning this over to you guys because this is your project, but they approached me wanting to bring a speaker to Wilmington that we were working on, and I'll let them talk a little bit more about it, but I'm very excited to have them here tonight and share.
All right. Once again, thank you guys for having us. So just to get started, as some of the student representatives mentioned earlier about the service learning class, we're tasked with creating our own community service project. Me and my partner, Ali, we've decided to come up with our project titled Project Revive and Thrive. It's just an agenda of what we'll be going through. No, we're good. All right, so the goal of our project, through our work, we have to come up with an idea that we both found beneficial, and we stumbled upon. We knew we wanted to do something in substance abuse, whether that was something like stopping substance abuse, helping recovery, making an impact in the community, to like shine a light on the problems of substance abuse. So the goal of our project is to assist and bring awareness to drug/alcohol addiction and recovery. We want to make sure the people who are making their first steps towards getting recovery are getting adequate assistance, as well as providing awareness on the struggles with drugs to our community.
So we're working with the Gavin Foundation. It was one of the foundations we found during our research. It's a foundation, if I'm not wrong, based out of Lowell. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't our first option. We got declined by our first option. Wanted to do something with the Heron Foundation because, if you guys don't know, Heron, he's an NBA player, played on the Boston Celtics, lost his career to addiction. That was originally who we wanted to help out with, but the Gavin Foundation was great. They hit us back immediately. There was, honestly, it was like, it might have been 45 seconds for the email we sent him, and they sent us back. But we just like asked them what they needed, and they basically hit us back, and it was just, all they needed was toiletries. That's what they were running low on, whether it was from toothpastes to towels, razors, flip-flops, like anything you'd find in your bathroom.
Just going off what Ali says, the Gavin Foundation's, as I said, is an organization out of Lowell who has housing for recovering addicts, and they help them get their first step on their feet, like they house them, feed them, clothe them, all the necessities to get that first step. All right, so our timeline, if you want to.
So right now we're in our preparation phase. Originally, at the beginning of the class, September, October, we started planning out like who we wanted to work with, what we wanted to do, like what we needed. Now we're kind of in that preparation drive phase. Currently, we're creating our boxes, wrapping them so they look cute.
It's all about looking cute.
Exactly. So when people see them, they're like, all right, let's go take a look. We plan on we came in contact with each one of the public schools, the library, and the police station. They've all given us permission to put boxes at their locations. We plan on sending out a message in the Facebook place, telling like people that basically if they like drop their kids off, or they can even send their kids to school, even if it's just like a tube of toothpaste. It's anything just to drop in the box. We also plan on sending out a Venmo in case people don't have the time to send something with their kid. They're busy with work, whatever it is, that they can just donate any money, and we'll ourselves go out and get it.
So what we can see upcoming is in December, we plan on holding our drive from late November up to mid-December, right around Christmas time, so that we can bring our donations to the houses, like give them some things for the holidays. And then going off of coming up later this month, November 29th, alongside us, Miss Murray, we found her, and with our guest speaker, we stumbled upon Brian O'Keefe. Brian O'Keefe is a former DEA agent who talks to students, families, faculty about the dangers of substance abuse, how we can prevent them in our community, and all the things of that nature. So later this month, we're going to bring him in, and hopefully he'll be able to talk to students, families. It's an open invite event that anyone can show up and come to, and it's a good gateway to kind of introduce our project to the community. We'll also be collecting donations there and things like that.
So with Brian O'Keefe, we sent out a message to our AD, Mr. Ingram. So he's going to, so we originally stumbled upon Mr. Brian O'Keefe through Miss Dunlap. She told us that he held a teacher conference where he talked about his story, and she said that she found it very inspiring. So that's how we came in contact with Mary. So Ms. Murray told us that she was planning on having him come in, so we just worked along with her. And then now we plan on having an event with him, and Mr. Ingram is going to send an email out to coaches to send out to their athletes, whether it's sports that have finished, like soccer, field hockey, soon-to-be football, sports that are starting with basketball, swimming, or sports that are going to start soon, like lacrosse, girls lacrosse, track, whatever it is. So students of even if you don't play sport, like students in drama, students in band, like anyone's allowed to attend. So sometimes like just putting a flyer out, people don't really stop to look at the flyers. So having an email in there, people become aware. And yeah, if they want to bring their parents with them, then it's more than welcome.
So going off of that, so with the event that we're holding, our purpose is targeted towards the youth. Although we plan on getting the toiletries and needs for adults struggling with addiction, we want to use our volunteer work elsewhere. We plan to work with professionals such as Brian O'Keefe to educate the youth on substance abuse, to make sure they don't end up in these homes, and recognize the extreme dangers of substance abuse before it's too late. So starting November 29th, you guys will see boxes around town, probably library, all the public schools.
Great.
We'll be collecting these toiletries. Anyone needs to contact us. Our contact info is listed on the flyer. Pretty much. And you'll probably see these flyers out in the hallway if you walk around the school, right out there. Yeah. One. So November 29th, save the date at 6:30 at the auditorium. We'll be holding this event.
Wonderful. That's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
They'll also be attending like the Wilmington Substance Abuse Coalition meetings, and until their project is over, kind of being involved in some other community events. So we're very appreciative of, I am, for you kind of reaching out and starting this work and doing such a good deed. And I brought it to my kids' hockey game because they're going to volunteer and bring in some toiletries so we can donate to Wilmington as well. So the more we can spread the word around to help support these senior students doing their community service project, we'd really appreciate it. So thank you.
That's great, guys. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your support, guys. Thank you.
Please. Do we have questions from the committee for these gentlemen? Please, Dr. Bryson.
Madam
No, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Last year, when we were not necessarily community service projects, but whenever students were coming to tell us something that was going on, there was always an Instagram for it. So I'm wondering, will there be an Instagram for this coming up, and what would you call it?
We didn't really plan on having an Instagram. It was more going to be ran through Facebook because I feel like I feel like everyone's in the community page. So.
Not all of us are friends.
So,
no, I hear you.
So I feel like we're more going to have a Facebook account.
But there are many high school Instagrams. I wonder if they would be willing to share. There's a lot of different
Yeah, I
Instagrams.
know, right? So
clubs and stuff?
Send it over.
Shared one for like all these projects too.
Awesome. So I'm sure it can be
posted.
spread out. So are the students on Facebook too, or really just the?
I'm on Facebook.
I'm on
I don't know about everybody else.
He rocks it old school.
It's adults on Facebook, I mean, parents on Facebook, and then everyone
I
else
think
on Instagram.
a lot of my friends like to be on the community page too. I think a lot of people do that.
Thank you.
MJ, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this is an absolutely fantastic start, and most certainly a good doorway and pathway to make a big impact within our community. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Recovery High Schools. Have you ever heard of Recovery High School? Okay, I won't keep it. So Recovery High School are students who, for one reason or another, whether it be addiction, well, it is addiction. There's Massachusetts, I think, has 3 or 4 Recovery High School WIPE students become sober and get their high school education. They stay on track. But that type of program is geared towards students dealing with addiction, the stressors of what comes with education, and getting back on track for the next step in their life. So I could see this too being so impactful, even just raising that awareness and raising that need is a huge piece. And I don't want you to ever think that just the collection of, toothpaste or deodorant, shampoos is a minimal thing, because it isn't, because it means the world to a lot of people who don't have that and don't feel that they have that support, which is kind of the reason people, tend to self-medicate, especially kids. So I do want to, I really feel this will make a really significant impact to our community, and I'm sure to the individuals that your community service project will reach.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Please, of course.
Well, and I also think having 2 seniors running this and thinking of all those younger kids that you mentor sort of unofficially, whether you're on a team with them or you see them in the hallway, and I just can't say the greatest things about what I've seen sort of having a freshman son, but watching the older students really mentor and be good role models. And this is the kind of thing that I think those younger kids are going to see, and you're standing behind it and they're like, oh, this is really important work. This is really, so he was doing it, he was saying it, and so now I want to go to this Brian O'Keefe. Like, I think that impact that you're making on young kids can't be kind of underestimated. I think it's more valuable long after you graduate from high school that you have made an impact on those like 14, 15-year-olds. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you, Becca and Aaron.
Good night.
Are you still there?
Did we didn't, did we mute, we didn't mute the phone, did we? Okay.
Becca?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, okay, thank you. We just wanted to open it up to the committee if there was any specific questions, and just want to make sure you were here with us.
Who has questions?
Okay, great.
Mr. Turner?
To start with a high-level one, with regard to the number of students, particularly at the high school level, I know it's kind of a impossible question to ask, but when you're at 40% of a student body, how do you evaluate the 60% who aren't there? I mean, when people do surveys across the country, they'll do a random sampling of 1,000 people and can extrapolate to the entire country. But with regard to a student population at a high school, did we get the 40% of kids who are, in the best state, the worst state, or kind of, do we assume it's a statistically significant sample across the entire student body when it's only 40%? That's a pretty low number, I would think. in your experience, how do you view that sort of a number, and how do you either use caution to extrapolate or not?
Yes, in this case, we would definitely use caution, extrapolating. But Erin, do you want to jump into it? So Erin is one of our analysts on the team, and she will have a much more nuanced response than I would. I will. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I'm not sure I'll have a more nuance. I think it is, yes, with caution. I think, unfortunately, the response rate was lower for the high school this year because of the other state survey that was going on at the same time. So unfortunately, we can't necessarily say that this is, representative of all the students, those other 60%, but my understanding, and Becca, you might be able to answer this better, is also that at least the sample is not, it still should be somewhat of, not necessarily a random sample, but there weren't necessarily targeted classrooms, or it wasn't necessarily just students that volunteered to take the survey, or something like that, so you're not getting a totally biased, maybe people that are responding. And we can look at some other things, like we can look at the sample in comparison to the full, like all high school students, to see if there are some differences in our sample, compared to the full sample, like in, maybe demographics, or maybe if there are the data from the full state survey for the other sample that was taken, we can do some comparisons there that might be helpful in making us feel more confident.
Mhm.
So, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Mrs. Burns.
So I was just, because I think that's kind of one of the lowest ratings that I think I've seen over the past several years, and I think the addition of that state YBS was probably impactful, but I would be interested in that comparison, just for, I think, a broader and clearer understanding what our district looks like, whether it mirrors each other in some respects or whatnot. I think combined, it would give good data points on this. I'm happy to see the downtrend, generally speaking, with what we were presented. Just some of those higher, previously higher percentages in past years, which, that's kind of the response to all the initiatives and programs that have been building and growing and evolving over time in the district. So, I mean, that's one of the indicators that I know I specifically use with regards to gauging effectiveness. Just as a data point for myself. So I think if possible, I would love to see, a comparison, or even those state results to be able to compare with the youth risk behavior survey results. Just more information is always good in that respect. Irregardless if the questions may differ a little bit, it still gives us a solid read overall on the rhythm of our students, where our students are and what our students face. So, but I thank you very much. There was one thing with regards to, I wanted to touch upon is and forgive me, I should know better at this juncture, the LBGTQI group. I know, especially at the middle school age, that's such a tumultuous time of development of self and who they are. And I know we have a lot of good, solid clubs and programs and peer support groups, but I wonder if maybe, and I think you may have touched upon it in a response to one of the questions I had asked previously. I wonder what the need might look like for parent support groups in supporting their children or not, because I know that can be such a tumultuous conversation in a family, depending upon the prospective parents or the child. And I just think that speaks directly to our mental health and social emotional health in that age bracket, if not, throughout the high school period. But I'm wondering, I'd be interested in seeing what other in-house, like whether it be after school or at nights, building up another sense of community and support and talk, community outreach, to see maybe, because I think maybe that might be a nice addition to support the other discussions happening already. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for presenting
I know
tonight.
it's a lot of information, so once you kind
good
of
information.
get through the reports, feel free to reach out to Becca and myself. I know it's a lot, and we still can work on this with committees, and I would love to collaborate with you guys even more as the committee
Thank you.
on some of this.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Okay, if there is no objection from the committee, I'd like to take the agenda.
Can you just hang up and thank Aaron, Becca?
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Rebecca. Good night.
Would like to take item A under old business out of order. Ms. Fletcher is here, so we could get that presentation done and then continue on with the agenda if there's no objection.
So, I'm sorry, can you,
Go.
Yeah, so we would take 9A, bus transportation update, out of order, and do that now.
okay, all right.
Okay? Dr. Brandt?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your flexibility in that, and Ms. Fretcher, thanks for being here. If you want to join us. There are two items that are in the packet tonight regarding bus transportation update. First is a fairly extensive memo that together to try and sort of encapsulate where we are in the developments, and then this presentation will try and bring that to life. Again, this, for people watching, this is this presentation itself is in the packet, and again, Ms. Fretcher, thanks so much for being here tonight. Are we good?
You're looking for the clicker in your hand.
Okay, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Distracted there.
Sorry.
Okay, no, thank you. So, there's obviously been an awful lot of conversation and discussion at this table over the last number of weeks, number of months regarding school bus transportation. And tonight is just an effort to try and pull this all together and give you as the committee and our community a sense of sort of where we're at and where we think we're going. So in the presentation that follows, some general updates. We'll talk just very, very briefly around some surrounding community snapshots, and then consideration for really future changes as we look ahead very, very quickly to fiscal year '25 and then next steps. So there's been a lot of updates, and Lisa, by all means, please jump in here if you think that I've forgotten anything or you want to add. But taking us all back in time a little bit, elementary start time adjustments with your approval and your support. We made some of those back at towards the end of October. And in addition to that, we tied that with the addition of another bus to the fleet. So our total fleet size is now 17. It was 16 at the beginning of the year. You recall that we thought long and hard about these adjustments, and we really felt after a careful review of the data that we were tracking that these changes would indeed help in terms of the performance of the buses. We made specifically those adjustments to start time for the Boutwell, the Shawshene, and the West School. We also at the time talked about the high school, and we floated that idea with you about the possibility we were looking at of making an adjustment there. Since we've been here before you with this, we've again looked at the data after some of these changes were implemented, and can share with you that we're not recommending at this time, and I would say that at this time would mean the rest of the year, any kind of change to the high school. We thought that at one point would be helpful and perhaps an important adjustment. We no longer think that, and so we're not planning to make a change to the high school. Communication, of course, has been a large area of discussion around, and particularly through these challenging times, more so I think than ever, in terms of a desire and appetite to have information around busing and routing and so on. And so thanks to Lisa and her leadership, who's worked very hard behind the scenes, We now have the bus routing app up and running. She might want to speak a little bit more to this maybe, but it is fully functional now for all students, and families rather throughout the district who wish to use that. Through our discussions as of late, I know there has been some interest perhaps around, well, how do we compare with other communities? And I recognize that it's just a snapshot, number one. Number two, it's really impossible to compare apple to apple from one community to another. There's lots of other metrics in the organization of a school system in which we might be able to compare apple to apple. This, in our opinion, is not one of them. But for whatever it's worth, and if not for sort of interest, even if it's just that, we gathered some information in a comparative sense of sort of what does transportation systems look like, communities look like around us. And there's quickly, lots of things that surface. How big is the enrollment? How big is the town geographically? How many schools are there? And on and on and on. So, again, really this is here not for anything maybe more than just, if anything, informational, but if not for anything else, and just anecdotal, subjectively, and we've talked about this, I think, before as well. In our opinion, in my opinion, the fact that we are operating 16 buses to service 8 schools over the size of the geography that we have in town it is quite a feat. And in and of itself, with that many different schools, is a challenge, let alone geographically the size of the town, the absence of sidewalks in lots of places. There are all kinds of factors, as you all know very well. The consideration for further changes for fiscal year 25. So, by all accounts, and it's a generalization to make, but by all accounts, thanks to Lisa and her diligence and hard work, I think where we're at right now is reflective of where I think this is the best that we can be for this year. We have the obligation to look ahead, though, for next year, and that's what we're doing. We're obviously doing that with the budget right now, and this obviously has, this is a budgetary operation. There are, it's not lost upon any of us that there are thoughts, questions, wonder around should we add more buses, and how would that impact our overall operations. And with this is also the recognition that some will sometimes point to the length of the child's ride in and of itself as a factor. Are the length of rides too long? Again, Lisa can speak more to this, but I don't think that that's the case by and large in our town. We have some that are outlying areas and that might take a little bit longer, but in general, this does not seem to be a large area of concern, at least that I've heard, and Lisa, you can say otherwise, that most in general would I think tend to agree with that. Certainly, the secondary factor, though, is, well, it would be wonderful to have a greater alignment of the start and end times of our schools. I can speak to this. I know Christine and Paul can speak to this. We would love if that could be the case. If we could align, even at the very least, all of our elementary school start and end times, we could have a whole meeting on the impact of that and the benefits of that. We are not operating this way because we think it's best or we want to. It's out of necessity. So that certainly has surfaced a number of times over the course of the last number of weeks. Well, why can't we? Why aren't we there? Why can't you structure the system such that we have all elementary schools starting at the same time? The only way to do that would be to add buses. The only way to do that. And we know that that's a tension for lots of different reasons. We've thought about scenarios and what that what that might look like, and we've given that some thought, and we've tried to couple that with some dollars. If we're talking about more buses, how many are we talking about? How many dollars does that translate to? To the best of our abilities to estimate that and guesstimate that, and again, the person who best can do that is, as you know, at the table here tonight. Here's what we, based upon our current configuration, this has nothing to do with possible school consolidation down the road, another building project, that is not even in the mind here, but based upon our 8 schools, granted, I know they're operating at 7 facilities, if we were to align the start and end times of all 4 elementary schools, and just to be clear, by 4, I'm talking about the grades 1 to 5 schools, The estimation is that we would need 9 more buses to do that, and that would translate in terms of current dollars, next year's dollars, to just over $700,000. 9 buses, a little over $700,000 to align the start and end times of those 4 elementary schools that I just mentioned. The other that has popped up certainly over the course of the last number of weeks and months is, the wait time after school, which we think has been, through Lisa's efforts, tremendously improved overall. It has shrunk considerably, but that said, there certainly is a wait time for some of our students at some of our schools. What has surfaced through these conversations and the focus on this, well, can't we have a bus at the doorstep ready to go once school ends and lets out? So a fleet of buses there, ready with doors open to pick up students as soon as the bell ends. The answer, of course, to that is yes, anything's possible, and we could. To do that with our current configuration, we would be looking at an additional approximate 19 buses. So all schools, elementary, across the district, getting out at the same time, buses there on site, on the doorstep to take students, 19 more buses, and you can see the dollar amount there of about $1.5 million. And finally, adding sort of any additional buses, if we set aside those desires, even if we'd love to have that configuration, does adding any more buses beyond now what we're operating with 17, would that make a difference? Would that improve our overall transportation system? After additional discussions with Lisa, and certainly she can speak to this if you have questions, perhaps the thought here is that one more bus could help. One more bus could help to smooth things out, to address some routes that might be struggling or so on. But overall, the estimation is that additional bus really wouldn't lead to considerable improvements. And I know that's a broad statement to make, but what does considerable mean? But overall, the thought is just that it wouldn't be sufficient or significant enough to warrant that additional cost. The school start times, the question, of course, is, well, should we make adjustments to the school start times for next year, 2024, 25? Please know we've thought extensively about this. We've talked about this. I pushed Lisa on this. Would you, could you, if you wanted to make a switch, could we, should we? We don't think that after these adjustments we made, we don't think that there's that need to do so. And so we think that where we're at now is a good place, so to speak. And we recognize that it's not perfect for everyone. We recognize that there's still a desire to have improvements. But right now, based upon what we're seeing, there wouldn't be a recommendation for you to make any start times for next year. So bear with me a couple more slides. We talked about sort of some recommendations, recognizing that we know that you felt this pressure. We know that you may yourself have concerns. Members have spoken to this. So what are recommendations from the administration? What would we be recommending to you? Not just additional buses in question here, but we do think that from an organizational standpoint, there are things that would be helpful for our community to move forward with, specifically after these last couple of months. First off, outlining or developing general expectations of our transportation system. You have a policy that speaks broadly to school transportation, but you don't have as a school committee, or we don't have as a district, something, I'll use the term of general expectations, that can establish some clarity around what, if a family is interested in having their child take the bus or children take the bus, what they can expect. We don't have that right now. I think that would be important. We think that would be important to take some time to develop, so that there's an understanding around the fact that there may be a few minutes that we are looking for you and need you to be at the bus stop in the morning before it arrives. Or there may be a certain period of time in which the length of that bus route is going to take. I think that would be helpful to have everyone with a clear picture and understanding. That would be the first recommendation. The second recommendation would be around establishing a working group that would include a cross-section of folks to to establish those expectations. The second recommendation would be to conduct a review of the school committee policy. We've talked about this a number of times previously, and by and large, and that the reason that we're not formally adhering to the policy is because we're trying to do better than the policy. Lisa's trying to transport as many students as possible. But we know what happens when you have a sort of a rule in place. There's a policy in the sense is, from my opinion, a rule, and we're not really following that rule. That can get tricky from an operational standpoint or an administration standpoint. I think that it still would be appropriate for us to give consideration to review that policy. And so that would be the second recommendation. And then the third recommendation would, it comes down to the size of our bus fleet and what is it that that is desired in terms of everything that we've talked about at length here. The recommendation from the administration before you as we go into planning for next fiscal year, as I stated earlier, is we think that 17, the place that we're at right now, is reasonable, if I can use that term, for next year, based upon our schools and our students enrolled. We recognize that you may not agree with that, and that's certainly fair, and that would be in your prerogative. It falls to the most important, obviously, of your overarching responsibilities, and that's budget. And if there is a desire to expand the fleet, if you may not agree with our position on this, we certainly respect that. We truly do, but we need to work hand in hand fairly quickly here to determine how many more buses you might wish us to be planning around, and from a financial standpoint, how are we going to make that possible? So I know there's a lot of information here, but obviously this has been a very important topic. It's been one that I know a lot of time and energy has been put into it. I want to thank Lisa for her work, and you can add whatever you think I may have left there.
I would, can we go to the slide with the comparison to other schools? Because this is very much more, it's not apple to apples, it's hard data here. And when we look at Wilmington, and please forgive some of the errors here, the number of schools, we certainly have 8, not 7. Technically 9 if you want to count Wildwood at West and middle school. We do not have 4 start times, we have 5, okay? If you look at every single other district, not one of them has 5 start and end times. If you compare it to Reading, and I can tell you Reading has 9 buildings, but they do not transport 2 of them because the students are within 2 miles of the school. So 2 of their elementary schools, they don't provide transportation for. So while they have 9 buildings, they're only servicing 7. And you can see by the number of students that they transport and the number of vehicles they have, very few students qualify for transportation. In Andover, they have 2 start and end times, 8:15 and 9 o'clock, forcing them to run 42 buses. That is not a mistake, it's not high, it is very accurate, okay? 42 buses for 2 start and end times. Burlington and Woburn, who both run very similar to us, with, they kind of transport everybody. You can look at both of those towns. Woburn is running with 3 start and end times. Burlington running with 4. Burlington has 6 buildings, Woburn does have 10, but again, 3 buildings, 3 start and end times with their 10 buildings. I can't stress enough, this town is doing amazing for the conditions we have. We are spending, we are transporting every day, spending at least a minimum of 35 minutes every morning and every afternoon, driving in between buildings, loading and unloading students. Imagine what could be done with 35 minutes every day. That's an enormous amount of time. Sometimes it's taking even 20 transporting in between the middle and high school. So this does give us a very, very clear idea of the challenges we have in this community. Out of the surrounding area, we are the only community with 5 tiers. We have what's missing out of there, Boutwell also starts at 8:30, but they have a 2:05 out time, 8:35 to 2:05. So that one was not included in the start time. So that's our 5th tier. 4 buses service that school. Imagine what it would look like with 4 other buses inputted into these other 4 tiers. We would be in a very different place. So the number of buildings, the number and start and end times we have is some of our biggest challenges. And when we move to work on changing school start times, part of that was reducing the number of tiers we had, because last year we had an additional one. We had the high school and the middle school separated. So that was an additional tier for us. So that is our biggest challenge. It's all these different start and end times. There's so many of them crunched into a small period of time, and we're servicing 8 buildings. So with 16, 17 buses compared to some of the other communities that are providing the same type of service, such as Burlington and Tewksbury, we are really doing a great job. And I understand we're not perfect and we shouldn't strive towards that, but given the logistical challenges here, we're in a really good place.
So with all of that, again, we know it's a lot of information, but we certainly wanted to bring you a sense of where we are at, and again, where we are recommending we go, but we are, of course, happy to take your thoughts, questions, and feedback.
Mrs. Burns?
So, thank you for the presentation and the information, and, you know, especially when it comes to busing and transportation, not Burlington, Andover, Reading, Woburn, they're not outfitted like a Mitten, where we have a high point within our, our town borders, which impacts a lot with transportation and longer bus routes in that area. But with that being said, just a couple of points that I do strongly support the development of expectations. I also do strongly support them not to be policy. It's not what policy. Right. Welcome to Professional Development Conference, let me tell you. So I learned, just briefly, to my rationale is that, worst situation in creating policy is for one specific situation unless it's rooted in law in some respect. I think the expectations, I think that is definitely a positive thing, but I think it is an operational piece handled by the superintendent, of which we most definitely can get behind. Policy are statements set forth with the purpose and prescribed general terms, the organization and program of a school system. So it sets the structure for these expectations, but it's not under that policy. You can change those expectations at any point. Right. And I think that flexibility is really important as we grow, as we evolve, whether in our buildings, and hopefully if we can, what's the word I'm looking for, combine our grades and things like that with start times. Putting exceptions and policies are dangerous. They create the framework within where the superintendent and their staff can discharge their assigned duties with a positive direction. And not everything that is required to be in policy. So just those kind of highlights from my recent policy meeting, just that I'd let you know, because I love policy. But I do think, and I think that's a wonderful addition, is to positive objectives. And because a lot of that too is rooted in MGL law as well with regards to students and time on buses and such. I do think we need to continue to strive. I also agree with you briefly, just to touch upon and loop this up, that I don't think any additional school start time changes for next year is a good positive thing. I'd like to see this consistency evolve. I want to make sure that what we currently have and that we've smoothed out is going to be where it needs to be at the start of 24-25. I think that's important. And I also think knowing that we're the fiscal year, but conversations with from the State House right now with how lean fiscal year 25 funding could look like. And there's also been some rumor of possible 9C cuts mid-year this year. I don't think it would be, if we're doing well and if we're meeting reasonable expectations with our students, pick up and getting home now. I think I personally am of the position where I'd like to kind of stay the course at this time on those elements that you've touched upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
So echoing some of what Mrs. Burns said, recommendation one, I absolutely support. I definitely think we need to set the expectations, you know, what you can expect in terms of the morning, in terms of the afternoon, also location. I think if we do a good job with that, I'm relatively familiar with the policy piece here, and there's places where we are being more flexible, but in particular, for example, the bus stop location piece, it's because that's the way the interactions have had to go over the years with regard to student safety and things like that. And so if we set the expectations, as you say, working with law enforcement and such things, I think the issues that would be covered by policy can be fixed with the recommendation number one in a much more efficient way that can be managed better by the administration in the long term. With regard to additional buses, my only thought on that would be getting $700,000 to $1.5 million added to our budget for buses would seem like something that's not going to happen. So if we were to choose to do that, I would presume it would go straight to fees, which if you do $700,000, that's $400 per student, every student. And if we did 1.5 million, it'd be over $830 per student.
And also with those fees, forgive me, you know, what we might find is when we're charging fees like that, we're gonna see students not utilizing the bus, which is going to add additional traffic on the road. And then we've contracted these vehicles for essentially when we don't have a need for them. We no longer have a need because we began charging fees. And on the opposite end, if your fees are too low, that may also not bring in the impact, you know, to make much change, because, you know, as we see in Andover where their fees are minimal and they're only $100, that's affordable for a lot of people, and they're willing to pay that fee for the just in case purpose. And for every one of these 40-foot vehicles that is added to the road, we are bogging down the intersections in between the schools, and also know that these schools are not capable of loading these elementary kids quickly. So when we start adding, if they have a fleet of 8 vehicles on their doorstep for those kids, they will not be loaded quickly. They will not be loaded even within 10 minutes. It is highly unlikely, because from the time the bell rings, they have to organize the students into their groups, usher them out. They typically only do 1 or 2 buses at a time that are closest to the door. They move out, a couple more move up, so that we don't have kids walking down sidewalks and getting close to roads. So the more vehicles we have isn't necessarily going to have the impact you think it's going to have. And essentially, for every vehicle that's added, where we are at right now, you're only looking at maybe 5 to 10 minutes you're saving. So for every $80,000, $75,000 spent on a vehicle, you're gaining 5 to 10 minutes. Potential fees for this community for 5 to 10 minutes.
We've thought about that. I'm sorry to, I know Mr. Turner had a question, but the irony again, unfortunately, but it's true, is with the age of these facilities, there's just the surrounding campus is not designed, none of these elementary schools are designed such to be able to accommodate all of the buses that are servicing them. So even if they were all on the doorstep, you think about the Beltwell, for example, there's nowhere to stack those buses. None of these elementary schools, they just don't, the campuses are not designed that way, so it would be, as you said, but anyway.
Yeah, so just to close out on that, so I don't support adding a large number of new buses. I think it would not solve the problem, and it would add a lot of cost to our families, and in the long run, it's not in the interest of what we want to do, so.
Mr. Turner, other questions? Dr. McCaldy?
Yep. Thanks. Yeah. So just a comment and a couple questions. So first off, I just want to thank both of you for all the work that you've put into this, because I've seen firsthand, and also looking at all the data, just how much the bus times have gotten reduced, and it's been a lot better. So thank you for all your efforts on that. So just another thing, I thought the data was really helpful that you showed with the other districts and stuff. So I work in Bedford, but on like the Lexington line, so I see the buses go around. So I actually was curious and looked into their school districts, and what's interesting is that they have 9 a.m. start times for their elementaries, which we switched to, and I thought that was interesting to see that comparator there too. Bedford's smaller, so they don't have to run as many buses, and they're a little smaller population-wise now. Lexington's really big. And what's interesting about Lexington is that they charge quite significant bus fees starting at grade 7. If you do the math, let's say if you have a family of 3, you can be spending $1,100 a year in bus fees if you live in Lexington. And I also see that those buses will, for the elementary side, some of them are running around the same time that we're running. You know, like I see them out and about around 4 o'clock, a little bit after that. So I thought that was a good comparison just to see what other districts look like too. Because I agree, I think some of the more urban districts aren't a great comparator for us since a lot of them don't have busing, right? So just some questions also. So how you got to the 9 buses and the 19 buses? So I think the 9 buses, I kind of understand. How are you able to get to that, to get them all to start at the same time? I'm kind of curious if you can walk us through how you got to the 19 buses.
So the 19 buses would be, if, we'll just use the Shawshene West.
Sure.
Buses to just service the Shawshene and buses just to service the West, which means they're going into neighborhoods and practically crashing into each other.
Sure.
So, you know, bus A, if bus B is behind bus A, bus B is also making all of A's stops.
Yeah.
So that's essentially where the 19 came in from. Currently, right now, just for instance, at the Shawshene, we are running 9 buses in the afternoon. We're running 10 in the morning. In the afternoon, we have 9 buses.
Yeah.
So if we were to kind of align both start times, Shawshene West has the smallest amount of vehicles, so we'd replace those ones. But the 19, it's a rough number.
Sure.
If we were to separate Shawshene and West and North and Woburn and having buses at each of those door stops for their own times.
Yeah. So what would it look like then if, let's say, you had like Shawshene West combined, North and Woburn combined, but then you had, you know, all the buses were there to pick up at, let's say, the North or Woburn, and then they go to the next stop. Would it still be that 19, or would it be less? Would it be like 7 buses? Do you follow what I'm saying with that?
So, I'm sorry. No, so.
Because the way I understand how you got to the 19 was you'll have a whole fleet will service Shawshene, and a whole different fleet service the West, and a whole different fleet services the North. What would it look like if, let's say, you have buses that service the North and Woburn, and all the buses line up at the North, they pick up everyone at the North, and then they go to the Woburn Street?
That would be the 9 buses. And we would actually, if you wanted them all there for $325, I believe, forgive me, I think we have about 4 buses that are still off and not perfect, so
Yeah.
you could add, so I would say 13 altogether.
Okay, thanks. So then, that's a good question for my other follow-up, because seems like on the north side of town, great improvements. The addition of the other bus was spectacular. Saw a lot of good improvements there. Seems like there's like 2 routes that the buses are coming still at that 3:50 time. Is that what you kind of meant, where maybe one bus could help out with some of those routes?
Well, it's not even just one bus. I mean, you know, I'm in a very delicate area here, and every change that's made has negative impacts on everybody. If I take away a driver that a neighborhood has had for the past decade to better align, to make times work quicker, yes, the person I'm improving their time on, they're happy, but then the one I just took their beloved driver from, they're very upset. And I did do that at one point this year, and it killed me to do it, because I know the relationship some of these families have with those drivers, and while time is important, that also has to be a consideration as well. So I am trying to be a little bit gentle with the changes now. One of our later buses, the Lowell intersection, Lowell Street and Woburn Street intersection, is having a tremendous impact on our transportation. What can be done very easily some days of the week can on others. For the first time in my life, I cheer for rain, because rain means there's no construction. Okay, I know my drivers can handle rain. I'm not so sure about the construction. So we're seeing a lot of varying times. And then even specifically, it seems to be like there's just a crisis every day. Route 3 shut down. We had an oil truck in Billerica spill over. And it all comes down to Wilmington. I don't understand how Route 3 has impacted Wilmington today, but it did. So these are constant battles and challenges that realistically are never going to go away. We're never going to see the consistency we saw 4 years ago prior to COVID, and even during COVID. The whole county is in a much different place. So, and a lot of the other bus has been provided specifically in the mornings to assist in that particular area with the construction. So there are some more things, small things that can be done. And I know we have one of the buses in the morning is arriving late to the north in Woburn, specifically on bad construction days at that intersection. Change goes into effect tomorrow. So that bus currently goes through the intersection twice. As of tomorrow, he will only enter it once. So we won't see those inconsistencies anymore. So we are working, I believe we have that one corrected. And then in the afternoon, for a bus to vary from what I'm seeing is some of them are making it there at 3:38.
Yeah.
And then it's going up to, that same bus is doing it 10, 15 minutes later. I even called a couple of the drivers and I'm like, what happened out there today? They're like, the Route 3 rollover and then Billerica. And I'm like, you're kidding me. That impacted it this much? And they were like, yeah, it did. Traffic was terrible.
93 too.
Yeah, I really truly feel like the days of consistency are a little bit over. Like, we're never gonna see it again. We're rolling the dice every day we go out there. So I can still make a couple of improvements in the afternoon. We're pretty much tapped out. I'm not gonna say otherwise. And again, what we're seeing is like maybe an acceptable time picking up at one school, like let's say the north. By the time it gets over to the Woburn Street, it's become no longer acceptable. And I acknowledge that. But unfortunately, we are running out of fixes for this. And it's not uncommon for a student to miss their stop because they were reading a book or, things like that. And that driver can't say, get out. They have to go back on the other side, the start of their route, to make sure that student gets home safely. So there just seems to be a lot of incidences regularly that are unfortunately beyond our control. We are kind of, like I said, tapped out, and the type of transportation we're seeing this year, where we have students riding one bus in the morning and a separate bus in the afternoon, is going to become the norm for this town now, okay? Expectations on transportation have risen, and I understand. And to better meet those expectations of the community, this is the course we have to go in. Because of the varying changes with construction and things of that nature. And it will be certainly, I'll be pushing forth bus passes next year to reduce so everybody knows where they're going. We've done a really great job. I know with all these changes, it's been really tough. And the students and the families have done a great job learning where they're going and getting to the right places. So I do have to applaud that, but we are looking moving forward where we are going to see even more of this. So some of our routes that are still running a little bit later right now, I can correct those next year with this different AM bus, different PM bus, but I am at a point where, it's tearing up everybody's world worth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially 10 minutes.
Well, I was kind of thinking more for next year planning. Agreed.
Yeah,
this
next year
I think
planning, we can certainly do better.
the consistency's great in just keeping things consistent, and it's more what I'm asking is for next year. There's the comment in the deck, like maybe one or two could help out. Like, what would that look like for next year? And then is that something we want to consider as a committee? So don't need an answer now, but just something to think about in that way. And then just my last comment is around the kind of setting kind of norms and expectations. I think that's time well spent. I looked at other districts on their bus transportation websites, and some of them do have quite an extensive list of these are our expectations, this is the service that we provide, and this is how you as parents and guardians need to navigate that. I think having that a little bit more front and center, and also us kind of looking at that again, I think it would be time well spent just to level set the community on what we can do for transportation. So thank you very much.
Mr. Maha.
Yeah, thank you again. I reiterate what people have said about, it's a ton of work, and this is fantastic to see, especially the scenarios and to see a dollar amount attached to it, so you can really see what this means. One thing on the first recommendation, I wonder if perhaps adding, you say it's school administration, school committee, and then law enforcement. I don't know if adding a parent or family member or members to that working group might be beneficial too. The third recommendation around, and I don't know if, and the more I think about it, the more I think it actually kind of doesn't. But my first thought was, if we have this first recommendation, which is to sort of outline these expectations, but then recommendation 3 is there's going to be decisions before, the end of November. There seems to be a bit of a conflict between those two recommendations. But the more I think about it, I'm not so sure there is entirely, because I don't think that on the first recommendation, I wouldn't expect that the general expectations are going to be drastic enough where it's going to drastically alter the budget. So I'm not so sure that those are in conflict anymore, but that was my initial thought.
I can see why that was a thought, and the expectations. But I would agree with what you just said there. That I also could not envision. It would be fairly radical to say, I don't know, something like we don't expect a wait of longer than 5 minutes or something like that at school that would drive necessarily that many more buses into the picture here. So I think that they can be exclusive. I think, admittedly, the time frame of the end of November, which I know that people are saying, wait, that's like 3 days away, but it's, of course, as I hope you recognize, this is a direct linkage, of course, to the budget plan. So we were putting this together a few weeks ago now with our school committee sequence, and I should have thought a little bit more about that date proposal, admittedly, but it's not that far off. If out of this discussion, and ultimately here, that, this is here to get a sense of you as a sense of the committee. I wasn't looking for a vote of any sort tonight, unless you have a desire to do such, but does this seem like an appropriate direction to go? Do these recommendations seem appropriate from your perspective? Mm-hmm. And if so, then we can continue our work. It's really comes down to that, though, that fleet size and what your perspective is on that, because clearly that has a direct intersection with the budget plan that will be before you in a short matter of time. So,
Mr. Turner.
Quick point of clarification. I said I was not in favor of adding 9 to 15 buses. I am in favor of keeping the 17th. So I should clarify that point.
Other questions? So I think, Dr. Brand, to your point, sort of a sense of the committee, and folks, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is support for recommendation 1, this sort of establishing the norms, this working group. I know the policy subcommittee has talked anyways about taking up some of these transportation policies, so I think we're all supportive of that, and we are in agreement that we are not considering adding additional buses outside of the 17th that we added this year for next year. Does that sound right?
I kind of put a question to Ms. Ferretta about, just seeing at a future time if maybe 1 or 2 buses she thinks for next year would be impactful. I think that's still an open question, right?
Yeah, 1 or 2, anything you add is going to be impactful.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, is the impact worth the cost?
Yeah.
So, again, 1 bus, or you're looking at 10 minutes.
To be clear, 10 minutes for certain routes. So
10 minutes.
Yeah.
So take one of your longest routes and you pull 10 minutes off of it, Because most of the buses, they're arriving at a school, 10 to 15 minutes after the bell rings.
Oh.
And then, so that's all you're saving there. The bus still has to go over to the other schools, so that's not changing.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, that's the change.
So we're still arriving after the bell rings?
No.
Oh.
That was the cup after.
Oh, I'm so sorry, forgive me.
Oh, in the afternoon.
Thank
It was
you.
in the afternoon,
Okay,
yeah.
appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
just to move quicker in the afternoon, every additional bus you add is going to pull approximately 10 minutes. And I don't say 15, and I know maybe we have some that are going 15, because I'm already seeing some of these schools taking longer to load because of the amount of vehicles that are at the building at the bell. So we're adding another bus to load children, young children. You know, it's just not a quick process.
Mr. Ruggiero?
And if I could, I think I heard you say also that for next year, with a clean slate with the 17 buses, you can do some things that will shave some time off anyway?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, with transportation, what works here doesn't work necessarily out there. And you can hire anybody you want. It is a very, very unpredictable industry. But if I knew today, you know, I would have certainly done things differently. So yes, we will certainly, like I said, we're going to run more what students take in the morning, won't necessarily be their bus ride home in the afternoon. We're doing relatively well in the mornings right now. And, you know, we can make small adjustments with that. Our main struggle is in the afternoon, and the high demand to get students picked up quickly and home quickly. That's where we'll start combining routes and have buses just service each side of town. So that we are going to see a little bit of improvement next year. I can't ever tell you every bus is going to be there right at the bell, but like I said, even if it is, it's not getting loaded at that time.
Mrs. Burns?
Just a quick question. Any student currently, because I know you've done a lot of evolution, is there any any student on the bus longer than 45 minutes?
No, I would say no.
Thank you.
Yep. And currently, right now, once the bus is in transit, it's like 30 minutes is the longest. And those routes tend to be Chestnut Street, Andover Street.
The small, narrow roads?
Yeah, Chestnut's very challenging.
Thank you.
No. I did, but it's fine. I'm good. I'll hold it.
Do you have what you need?
I think so. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much,
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back up to new business, item B, food services contract. Dr. Brand, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Finley. As you know, we have recently wrapped up a new contract with our food services unit. I want to take this opportunity and thank in particular Dr. Bryson, Mr. Turner, Mr. Ruggiero, and Stern Armstrong, our Director of HR, for their extensive work on these negotiations. We are thrilled with how we've ended up. We think it's at a good, fair, and reasonable place. And obviously, earlier tonight in executive session, the school committee approved the contract, but we bring this forward tonight in regular public session. So we're looking for your vote this evening on that. Thank you.
Dr. Bryson, Mr. Turner, do you want to say anything about the process? Or if not, I would entertain a motion. Mrs. Burns?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Turner. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. First read of some policies. First up is policy EC, Buildings and Grounds Management. Yeah, sure.
As you can see, pretty basic updates. We've just we've compared it to the MASC handbook for now, and that is pretty much the updates and revisions that we've made.
Do we want to do motions on them individually?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's a first read.
It's a first read.
We'll do it
Right,
next
so
time.
we'll just,
Yeah.
yep.
Are
Thank
there, I
you.
guess we just have to see if everyone.
Yeah,
is
does
com-
anybody have any comments or? Very good. Okay, next up, ECAC vandalism. Was that,
Similar.
that was you, right?
I think it might have been you. I don't know.
I think that was you. I think I'm the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the addition of them and then the addition of guardians. Yeah, pretty basic updates.
Questions, comments? Okay, we'll move that to a second read. Next is EDC authorized use of school-owned materials. There were no updates to this. It mirrors the MASC policy, and so there were no changes needed. Questions, comments? Okay. And finally, EBCD emergency closings. Jen, was that you? Or was that me?
I'm not sure. This isn't, I mean, I think it might have been mine. So
Changes anyways.
we did keep, so it's a little bit different, so I reviewed it against the MASC handbook. But I believe we kept in, did we not keep it? Sorry, give me a second.
There was a policy or something that was sort of tacked onto the bottom that we removed
We
to
did,
put
okay.
as a policy, I think. Is that, if I recall correctly?
I think it's incorporated in the comments section of what,
That's it then. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay, we'll see that one for a second reading as well. Okay, back to old business. We have a report out on the MASC conference and resolutions, Mrs. Burns.
so thank you.
You.
This year's MASC conference focused on DEI, so a lot of the workshops, a variety of different workshops targeting that. General speakers this year were Dr. Denisa Amati-Jackson, who is an educational and racial equity strategist, spoke about transformational relationships that must be developed and are continued within districts and communities in order to drive equity within our school communities. Justin Reich, who's the director of MIT Teaching Systems Lab, gave a presentation on generative AI for school leaders and policymakers, and what they found with the beginning of AI, with word prediction, word responses. It was quite interesting for the time that I spent there. So, and to touch base on that, Commissioner Riley's one of his topics that he spoke to at the first evening's dinner was about AI and how he's looking into that and bringing it into our schools. So that'll be coming down the pipeline at some point, but it's something to be mindful of because I'm sure along with that comes a lot of unfunded mandates or underfunded mandates. So anyway, that's a little preview. Some takeaways that I do want to bring up is I did take part in a panel discussion on the updated Massachusetts IEP form and process. So as of now, DESE, school districts are required to adopt the new IEP. DESE gave the option to districts to either adopt it this fall or next fall, and to be implemented. So, and the goal of this new and improved form is to collect more constructive data on students and to promote and encourage more student involvement in the creation of IEP and goal process, including our 3-year-olds. Go figure. I think the intent, it's to make the IEP a stronger building tool and resource to meet parental and student goals. I think the initiative is a great idea, but I do think the implication is more negative. And in speaking with our director of student support services, I think there's more to it than just what I've picked up. But it's going to be an unfunded mandate that will, and I bring this to your attention as we approach budget season. It's going to, the creation of this is going to add more work in the creation of IEPs in just the administrative aspect. It's going to extend team meetings, which also risks our our civil rights criteria that we need to meet with regards to turnarounds of evaluations, in those type of structures. Did I tell you it was an unfunded mandate? It is an unfunded mandate. So it also can very well risk IDEA, ADA, things that we rely on for the structure. On the form itself, there's no difference between the statutory requirements of an IEP and what that needs to include, and what the filler piece, as I like to call it, because I don't know how else to just decipher it. I did speak out to the DESE person who brought forth this panel, but I really strongly encourage, this is a huge problem in this day and age, especially if we're looking at budgetary cuts. We certainly can't afford to bring on more staff in our student support services, but it will be needed if we're going to meet these timelines that we're required by law to meet. But I just wanted to bring that to your specific attention, and I think we do need to take more proactive role with regards to another unfunded mandate coming down the pipeline, with regards to where districts are now expecting lean budgets in the next fiscal year. I think it compromises and threatens the success of all of our schools, but especially in Wilmington. So, on that note, I've got, Michael and I have work to do. I'll fill you in. Sure. But regarding the resolution, that in itself was an experience like no other. And I'm saying that after 12 years of experiences. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Okay. Resolution 1, full stable funding for MECA was approved as written. Resolution 2, regarding investigations and recommendations for transportation bidding procedures. That was approved, but with, based on the MSBA protocol. There was no discussion around it. Resolution 3 on regional transportation. The resolution failed at the delegate assembly. Basically, the state promised regional school districts 100% funding for their transportation. And that only happened in the first year of this this law. And so, so basically, the body determined that we shouldn't hold the state harmless, and we should hold them to the fire on their roles and responsibilities. They have to regional school district transportation funding at 100%, as they said that they would. We shouldn't let them off the hook and start charging fees to parents. So, so that failed. Resolution 4, diversity, equity, inclusion. So after 2 hours of discussion and many amendments being brought forth, the body tabled this resolution to be brought up at the next conference. Some of the controversy was behind the sponsoring divisions, which I believe was 13, position on accepting certain language changes in this resolution. It just got so convoluted and so confusing that I expect that the minutes of this particular aspect of the delegate assembly will be vague, because I don't think any of us kept up with what it was. So it's tabled and will be brought forth next year. Resolution 5, Mass School Building Authority was approved with corrections. The actual cap now is 1.2 billion, not 800 million. And then it was also amended to read, further be it resolved, there be an evaluated tiered system to separately assess the cost of elementary, comprehensive high schools, vocational, technical, and agricultural schools. So a tier of need, and ensuring that those types of schools are all, I guess, tiered with regards to their needs and not forgotten in the pool. Resolution 6, School Bus Stop Armed Surveillance Act and Enforcement and Penalties. This was tabled further because there was a lot more clarification that needed to go behind with regards to how is this going to be, besides advocating for it, how would it be implemented? Police can't be everywhere and watching school arms, but so that'll be tabled to a later assembly. Resolution 7 related to MCAS. I tried as I might to get up at the microphone and put forth our amendments. It didn't happen. That too was tabled after much discussion, confusion, and the like. So, and because it was on the, MCAS was on the state ballot, they decided to might as well start anew next year and bring it forth. So just to let you know. And Resolution 8, safe and storage of the firearms. So I happily will say that our amendment was approved as amended. So it replaced the initial be it further resolved, and they're using our language, so. So that's it, and there's only, one other thing that I just wanted to bring note of, because I do think that there's a couple of resolutions maybe for next year we might want to discuss together or in part, to bring forth. But MCAS, with regards to resolutions, have changed their bylaws. So what the new bylaw pretty much states is that resolutions will be worked for 3 years, and then the membership will receive notice of those resolutions that are in the process of sundowning. So they have 3 years for the executive body to work on it with the lobbying and legislation. But after 3 years, they'd be sundown. New districts can pick up these resolutions and bring them forth if they want them continued to be worked on, or they'll just let them sundown. But it's a really great idea to actually engage other committees in this type of resolution work, so that you can drive the work of our executive board to lobby in Washington and at the State House, and to change laws and try to make a difference to better our schools. So I think that's actually a great idea, and who doesn't love reminders mid-year, right? That it's resolution time. So other than that, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Jay.
Just a question on that last part. You were saying that, like, if a resolution passes, they'll sort of lobby for it for 3 years and then sort of take it down, and if a school committee wants to reintroduce that, a similar, either that resolution or a similar resolution, they can do that. But the MASC isn't gonna continue to lobby for that, for a resolution indefinitely. It's gonna be
Right, well,
every
I
3
think
years,
this
is
was,
that,
I think this was.
or until passed, or?
There's some resolutions that, that have changed, that there's no more, there's nothing, either it was implemented in some way, or it just didn't go anywhere, it wasn't a strong piece. So right now, they have about 70 resolutions. So they're trying to find a way to ask the membership, basically, what do you prioritize? Because they can't really lobby effectively and efficiently for all of those resolutions. So this is one way of kind of bringing, and again, the membership will have this plenty of time to bring it forth, for the delegates, the conference next year. But I like that idea, because I do think as we evolve and new things come down from DESE, or even within our school districts, that whatever our needs are within our community and district, I think it may really serve a viable role to push those priorities. Those priorities may also change. So I think it's a good way of reinventing and revisiting without having to create the wheel in some cases. Because I do have to say, I think part of the issue, so we started at 3, and we adjourned about 7:30, and I think they held the dinner for us. But it was, right, but it wasn't, I think part of it though too, and I say it very respectfully, because I'm very grateful for the committees to bring forth these resolutions for discussion, but I think they weren't well-written, and that's where, like, there was other issues with regards to the driving of the meeting, but they weren't well-written, and I think that's where a lot of the confusion, controversy, and it got convoluted, and then we get stuck in the mud. So, but I think it's a great idea, and very effective.
We are grateful to you for the time and effort you put into this every year. So thank you.
Enjoy it. Labor love. And if it gives me another platform to speak, even better.
All right.
Oh, I have to tell you.
Please.
So I was in the Resolution 8 long meeting, right? People were a little antsy. We have some new members who weren't familiar with the parliamentary procedures that we laid down and that we hold to at meeting. Somebody was calling, I'm in the middle of speaking. I was recognized, believe it or not, for a change, in the middle of presenting our amendment in Resolution 8, and the two newbies in the back calling for adjournment. This is the first time. It was picking up by these two knuckleheads. I told them right off the bat to stand down. They weren't recognized, and I had the floor. And I went right back to the amendment. This is what we're proposing. And first motion, second motion. Literally, 2 minutes later. It was that crazy. It was that crazy. But I did learn that if you came to a mic and you were recognized and that you called for an adjournment, it can't be argued. They'd have to adjourn the meeting. So I learned something from it, but anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's all about teaching.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, subcommittee reports? Okay, correspondence?
None this evening. Thank you.
Good. Future school committee dates and other notable items. November 16th, Parent Guardian Elementary Literacy Night, 6:30 PM here in the large group instruction room. November 22nd through 24th, Thanksgiving break. November 29th, the Wilmington Community Cares event featuring keynote speaker Brian O'Keefe that we learned about earlier, here at the high school at 6:30 PM. December 6th is our next regular session meeting here at 7 PM. The Wildwood School Building Committee will meet next on December 13th at 6 PM here in the large group instruction room. Our final regular session meeting of the year is December 20th at 7 PM, and December 25th through January 1st, 2024 is winter break. Mr. Turner, how'd I do?
You did very good. I did gather off the calendar all the upcoming winter performances for our performing arts groups, chorus, band, strings. And so they're all listed there and shown there, so in one place. Come and enjoy the shows. It should be very good.
Oh, and just to clarify too, with the Community Cares event that will be taking place here at the high school in the auditorium from 6:30 to 8, I think that can't be
Yep.
said enough, but thank you.
Thank you. I would take a very brief moment now, since it's our last meeting before the break, to wish the families, students, staff a happy, safe, healthy Thanksgiving break. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Dr. Bryson?
I think we also should wish Paul a very happy birthday.
I wasn't gonna call him out to embarrass him, but
I do think it is important that everybody hears happy birthday on your birthday. Is that okay with you? Oh, good. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paul. Happy birthday to you.
When you hit a certain age, there's no more birthdays.
I think we're
Thanks for
overdue and
spending
embarrassing.
it.
We haven't done that recently.
I second that.
thank you for being with us tonight and every night. Dr. Bryson,
I don't,
you're not gonna
well,
sing again, are you?
I'm not an athlete, or I don't know much about athletics, except my children are both athletes, and I know there is a football game here at home
Yes.
on Thanksgiving Day, which I hear is a very big deal.
Yes.
So, just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And the gate opens at,
The game is at 10,
10,
so I think it's 9, at 9:15, I think it'll be open. And attendance has been huge at games this year, and many of you have been there. And so long-range forecast looks like a crisp but sunny day, so should be awesome.
Wonderful.
Come on out.
Football and the band. The
Thank
band.
you.
Yeah, I'll add that too.
I was gonna say the band, yeah.
The band will be performing too, so.
Sorry, I should have said that. I'm really more of a band person than I got locked into this. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
motion by Dr. Bryson, seconded by Ms. Burns. All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you and good
Thank you.
evening.
Good job.